Why have I got a Nash? Well, my darling wife's maiden name was Nash, so I bought this for her 3 years ago, 4 years, maybe 4 years ago now, and it won the Nash Nationals in, that's a bit of a tongue twister, it won the Nash Nationals in 2015. It truly is absolutely mint, and stunning car, but I don't know how long it will stay here because my darling wife hasn't even sat in it yet, so we'll get there. But in doing that, the car there is a Jaguar Royale. We're at the Petersen. This is somebody who would really understand this car. Not many people do. This is in 1955. This was a brand new white Jaguar XK140 delivered to California, and it raced on the west coast in 55, 56. In 57, a guy called Anderson bought it and had a customizer, who any of you guys into custom cars will know, Joe Wilhelm, converted it to look like this, and it was called the Jaguar Royale. In 1960, I can't remember which magazine, Joe was named as one of the top 5 customizers, and his only criticism was that Joe took so long doing the interior and everything. Just the attention to detail in this car is just unbelievable. It probably could do with, having been repainted or something, but I've never done it because it was then in 59, 60. In 57 it went to Pebble Beach and come second in class. 58 it come third. It went all around the country winning awards, and then in 59, 60 Paxton Superchargers had it and ended up using it as the test mule for the McCulloch supercharger on a Jaguar, which it still has today. So the only thing changed from 1960, which it did go back to Joe to do, was the indicator lights, so it was more street worthy. And this car was actually invited to Windsor Castle 2 years ago. I didn't apply or anything. They just somehow knew I had it and invited me, but unfortunately I had a clash which upset the wife. I spent 12 years restoring one in the UK. Then when I left the UK, I let it go, and unbeknown to me, my boys, who have now grown up, were shocked that I never got another one, because they said, that's what we remember you doing every weekend, Dad, was in the garage working on the 190. This, again, as I said, has won major awards. The strawberry red, true colour, again, nut and bolt correct. A lot of fun to drive. They're not fast, but who goes fast in these now? The Flex. Why have I got a Ford Flex? Well, I love art and I love cars. So when the Flex came out, Ford and Automobile magazine got together and got an artist called Lee Quinones to paint this. And Lee did, he did, the on the side there, I don't know if you can see it, he was asked to paint a crossover. So he did, so he did Blondie, the Roxy, CBGBs, the clubs on this side. Then on the other side, CBGBs is down the bottom there. Hopefully you can see it. On the other side, he did it's a bit tight here, the New York subway and if you can see it, and the Brooklyn Bridge. You can just about see it. But what was interesting is part way through, the recession hit. And in the recession, you can actually, if you remember how 2008 was, you can actually see a Wall Street banker being run over by yellow cabs, and what was playing at the theatre there was The Lion King, not The Lion King. And I laugh because my second son, obviously nothing to do with this, he got the job afterwards. My second son works for Stephen Colbert, and there's the Late Show on this. So again, the art and car things with a Dexter brand, as you see. But also, it's not a good description of it. While they was part way through it, they said that what was important was the sneakers, and they actually went to Michelin and had Michelin do a set of tyres cut with Lee's graffiti on it. So, and Lee was extremely famous in the 70s, and he's really known as the grandfather of graffiti. He was part of that whole, you know, painting trains from front to back and stuff like that. So anyway, carrying on here. Okay, back to BMW. So a boat. What has a boat got to do with a Petersen? Well, there's that actually, this is powered by a BMW 507, and this was the very boat. So BMW actually made 3 wooden boats powered by 507 engines. There's this boat, which was made for Helm Glocker. Helm Glocker was the first, really the Glocker family were the first guys to do anything, win major races with Porsches. They was a VW Frankfurt dealer. Helm Glocker ordered this boat. He said to BMW it would make a great ski boat with the new aluminum V8 engine. So they used a company called Abate. Abate were famous to make the hull. Abate were famous for racing boats, Ferrari, Alfa Romeo, Maserati. If you look up the history of even the Ferrari Arno boats and the Maseratis of the early 50s, you'll see some of them were made by Abate family. So this hull was made by Abate. This BMW made 85 507 marine engines, and then took this very boat all around Europe, and had they got an order for 1 more boat, which obviously was not a good project, so they canned the project. Most of the engines either went to cars or industrial use. And Helm Glocker, then a German living in Italy, bought it and had Abate, who originally built it, restored it. And then I bought this actually from the BMW Museum. So there's 2 boats like this, and then a 3rd Rambrek boat, which is unique. It's the only Rambrek one, which looks slightly different. The second one like this, you know, is out there, but it's the BMW history. So here, the Aston Martin DBAR1, just a beautiful, beautiful car. I love it. It's chassis number 2. So at the time, it was the first customer delivered car, but I don't know that. I'm sure they've let number 1 go now. Typical Aston Martin, they do it. Excuse the cloths on the floor. This is it's a great example on what not to do when you're collecting. I'm going to get shot for that, but this car's got 800 miles from new. 2003, so it's 17 years old now. I should have bought one with 6,000 miles, so I could actually maybe take it up to 10,000. When they've got 800 miles, they're a brick. It's the only car made in green and green. It was, you know, and it's fun. I mean, there's no, if you don't know these cars, living in Seattle, there's no top, no soft, no hard, nothing. But there is 2 umbrellas in the trunk, so, you know, I can't, if the trunk's open, I can't remember. No, it's closed, so, oh well. But, you know, beautiful old thing. They are lovely. And it may come the occasion one day when I actually buy one with a bit higher mileage and, you know, have this serviced and up and running and let this one go. But I'm not saying I will. Hemi Superbird. It's a real Hemi Superbird. People say, well, I think I bought, 2011. I bought this one. People say, why do I have this? And although I have a couple of others, I always say, if you're going to have one muscle car, you may as well have the most iconic. This car was actually 17,000 miles from new when I bought it. I think I've done about 1,500 miles in it. I only drive it locally for fun. And apologies to all my American friends, but it drives like crap. But a hell of a girl in straight line, you know. And I bought it for fun, and I never imagined they'd become core to the collection. And it may well be that, you know, I thought in a few years I'd let it go or whatever, or a year or two. But I've now had it 9 years and I absolutely love it. You cannot get in this car without smiling. It's hilarious. But it's been in many books, and although there's there's only 135 real Hemis. Obviously, there's a hell of a lot more of 446 packs and things like that. But in this colour, you see many of them. But actually, these many times on books on the front cover, they've used this particular car. While we're on muscle cars, I'll bore you with a couple of other stories. The Mach 1 is, you know, I started work at 8 years old in a street market in England, and, you know, at 12 years old in 1971, on a Saturday, I heard a noise that I'd never heard in my life. And you only drove down the market if you was an idiot or you wanted to show off. And it was a local wise guy, as you call him, a local mobster, who was showing off. And there I was, standing at the edge of the stall, waiting for this noise to come through the crowd. And this American V8 rumble come, you know, inches from my toes, and I never forgot it. And I don't know, about 6-7 years ago, I was with a friend who's very much a Mustang guy. And I said, if ever you find a 71 Mach 1, I'd be interested. And 6 months later, actually, this come up locally, fully restored by a local guy, and he wanted to buy a different car. So I bought it, and it's quite funny because compared to the Hemi Superbird, this thing will kill the Superbird away from the lights. But then at 80 miles an hour, this thing's asthmatic. It starts puffing and panting, and the Hemi Superbird has just picked up its skirt and starts to run then. So in doing that, the GT500, I know most of us on this will not be interested in that, but as an Englishman come to America, everybody told me to buy a classic car. I bought a 427 Corvette, 68 car, and the car was terrible. May well have been the car, but the experience I had with it was terrible. So I decided to go out and order one of these new ones that I'd heard was so brilliant. But typical immigrant, I didn't realise that no matter what I buy this year, next year there'll be something bigger and better. A very American concept. So in 2008, they done what they called a red stripe package. The convertibles never left the factory with stripes. Only the coupes did. The convertibles had stripes put on by the dealers. So they, long story short, they was going to make 600 of white or black with a red stripe package. So I ordered the white. I made it a very rare option list because of you Mustang guys out there in the world. And my daughter came along at the same time. So this will probably be, I won't say it'll be her first car, but it'll be her second or third car. We'll let her bash something else up first. So the 2008 GT500, just because I bought it. But then, of course, the next year there was a bigger engine, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year. The Z1, hopefully many of you know about them, but I had a red one for some 20-some years. But again, it's about having placeholders and improving the herd. As I've done many times, you know, I've had many M1s, many CSLs. All the time I'm improving the herd. In a Z1, you can get an Alpina, which are out there. But as the standard cars, obviously they never raced, so there's nothing important about them. But so this car is the only, Magic Violet is a rare colour, and it's the only Magic Violet press car. So this being that means, again, it's currently the best I can find. It doesn't, you know, there's lots of, and if I can, if I can show the doors, if you haven't seen them, how the doors go up and down. As I said, I'm sure most of you have seen them, but, you know, when you think this was, you know, the concept was like 86 released to the world, and BMW really didn't intend to build it, but everybody threw money at them. And in that period, so they decided to make 8,000 cars, and they didn't come. They didn't come to the US because it was considered dangerous to drive it with the doors down. And as I say, have you seen a Jeep? So now we get on to my love for M1s. And I will say that not all my cars are here. There's about 10 cars that are not here. I mentioned the Eggenberger one earlier. This M1 is black. There's a lot of controversy about the numbers of the black cars. There's 2 black cars made. First off, there's 399 street cars and 54 race cars. Unusually, they made the race car and then the street car for homologation. There was absolutely, it was made to make the race car. Normally, you see a street car built and a race car comes out of it. This was actually, no, the race car was built and the street car came out of it. So they had to build 400 for homologation. They only built 399. Of that 399, they built 2 black cars. There is a third car that left the factory black. Not this one, obviously. But in some records, you can see it says blue, and the blue is literally scrubbed out and handwritten is black. So I can only surmise that someone requested a black car, the 2 black cars had left, and BMW, because they couldn't sell the M1s, were like, yeah, sir, we'll give you a black car. So that's it. So officially 3 left the factory, but I believe, I don't have any proof, that there was only 2 made in black. DB6 Volante, I'm English, right-hand drive. It's had 1 coat of paint in its life. It's 52,000 miles. It's everything else is original. The leather, the engine bay. The engine bay's never been apart, but it has. I mean, the leather is just. You know, you guys talk about your old baseball gloves and things like that. I don't know if I can hold that up there, and if you can see it, the leather is just gorgeous. The roof the same. So I actually bought this car in England with 50,000 miles and a bit less, and it was one family owned up until a couple of years before I bought it. It was owned by some lord, and then his daughter had it when he passed. And I had it shipped to Pebble Beach, San Francisco, and then during Monterey week, I used this as my run around down there. I went then to Lake Tahoe, did a tour of Lake Tahoe with some good friends, and then drove it home to Seattle. So the first time I drove it, I did 2,500 miles in it. So that was kind of fun. As we're going through here, the M1s, I'll get the Ferrari out of the way. So this is a 355 Challenge. Not that I want to get a Ferrari out of the way. I apologise to all our Ferrari friends out there, but you can see the picture out there. This was previously owned by Dale Chihuly, and Dale will confirm this is the only car in the world he's ever painted, and it took me many years to get Dale to do it, and after much persuasion, including some of his staff and people close to him, we found a way to get him to do it. And unbeknown to me, I own a black vase of his that I bought through a staff member. Never actually interacted with Dale himself on that purchase. That hood that he painted looks exactly like the vase that I bought. I mean, just crazy. Then we'll go across. The bikes. So I don't know. Bikes are a fairly new thing for me, and I've actually this shows that I haven't really defined a theme yet. The R35 in front was the first one I got. I love it because of that lovely Art Deco-ish look from the 30s. The R69, because it's one of their best post-war bikes. That black one is an R69S. The white one is an R69 in Dover white. And that's original paint on that bike. So That's it. I think now I'm going to start looking for just the coloured ones, not the black ones. As you can see, there's some of my memorabilia up there. I do have a lot more, but you know, some of it's connected with the race teams or the old BASF car I used to own, and doing that. And you know, things come up like that front nose there is an original CSL nose. You can't buy that gauge of steel anymore. That, you know, so that's in primer, and you know, just the parts for the cars and odds and sods of like M1 luggage there, and you know, things. The street and race version of M1s, this sits in there. This car's blue. It may not look it in the camera, but this is a car that was bought new by Johnny Cicotto, the factory race driver, in May '81. Johnny sold it to me with 8,000 miles in September 2012, with a letter, totally original, never been touched, never been taken apart. The camera will not show it, but this is a great example of, if you find an M1 with perfect paint, it's been painted, because the fiberglass has sunk over the years, and it just is so, it's so lovely to have a car that's never been touched, and to have Johnny Cicotto own it for 31 years, and then it come directly to me. This was a car, it lived in Munich its whole life. Johnny, when he was selling it to me, BMW said, "What are you doing? We want that car." And he said, "No, I'm selling it to a guy in America." And since Johnny's actually sent me, I don't know if you can see it there, his race suit and his race shoes, because he knows I like the memorabilia. And every time we have a conversation, he says, "Do you still have my car?" And of course, I've not seen a better provenance one that's not been touched. I've seen lower mileage, but they've all been either federalised or something's been done to them or whatever, but no, not this car. And then this car here, okay, storage. So this is the Peter Gregg Frank Stella Art Car. So this is the only car in the world that's in the books with BMW's factory art cars. They own them all, every one of them. Okay, there's only one car in the world in private hands that's in the books that can sit alongside them and has sat alongside them and has, just unbelievable history. This has kind of got a sad history, but I mean, certainly, oh God, how do I explain it? Okay, let me tell you the story and then you can make your own judgment. So in August 78, Peter Gregg, there's a picture of him on the front screen, ordered this car directly from Jochen Nierspach. It was, he had a relationship. He'd actually driven for BMW, and, there he was. He was, 6 times INSA champion. I mean, very, very famous race car driver. So he ordered the car in September. God, I'll get killed if I get this wrong. In September, they went to Monza, Peter Gregg and Frank Stella, to watch their friend Ronnie Petersen race. Ronnie Petersen sadly died in that race. So they decided that when the car came, they would actually do this car in memory of Ronnie Petersen. So this series of paintings by Frank Stella is called Polar Coordinates. And if you actually buy a artwork of Frank Stella's from this series, it will say Polar Coordinates in memory of Ronnie Petersen. But I believe this car was the first piece to do it. On the order sheet, and I have every single piece of paper from Peter Gregg and Jochen Nierspach. He said, I wanted 2 seats, I want black watch tartan. As you can see, the German script there made for Peter Gregg. I want the passenger seat exactly the same as the driver's seat. I want, he said what kind of exhaust he wanted. I have the Lufthansa documents of shipping it, what Peter paid, a copy of the cheque. Sadly, then when the car got there and this was done, Peter Gregg had an accident and had double vision, and he pulled up to the side of the road in Jacksonville and committed suicide. So the car stayed with his wife, who was his brand new wife, sadly, for about 10 years. And she sold to a lawyer in New York who faffed about with it for a little while. And then eventually the lawyer in New York donated it to the Guggenheim. And the Guggenheim had it from 1999, Guggenheim in New York that is, had it from 1999 until 2011. And in 2011, they decided they didn't want to hold it anymore. So they put it in a auction at Pebble Beach. And at the time, an M1 would have been, 120, 150 grand. I think they estimated this to be 400 to 600 grand and realistically expected it to make the lower estimate. I went and I bid. There was 3 bidders up until 600 grand. The one bidder dropped out. I was then bidding against someone on the phone. I didn't know who it was. And I was the underbidder. And I had that mixed emotion of, thank God I didn't spend 857 grand. And oh dear, I lost, so. But then I found out who bought it, and it was a banker in New York. So I probably would have never, ever won. And I stayed in touch with him, and eventually, 2-3 years later, he agreed to sell it to me. He asked me to sit down, and it's a good story of good people, I've still never personally met him in my life. He told me the price. I asked if I could have a bit of time, and he said, sure, how long? I said, 6 months, thinking he'd give me 3. He said, yeah, sure, 6 months. He never offered it to anyone else. He knew how much I wanted it, and he did it. So, stories of good people in the world. This is the one car as well that about once a year I have a broker come through and, oh, Peter, I've got someone who wants your car. I understand that, not understand, I've heard it. If you listen to Adam Carolla, listen to his podcast on June the 29th last year, and you'll hear some great quotes about this car. He talks about 2 misses, one a piece of property in LA, and this little car here is his second biggest miss in his life in the car world. Funnily, the Guggenheim in 1999, when they took this in, and I remember it's for insurance purposes and whatever, and we understand, when you give things to art galleries and that, or donate them, but they valued the artwork at $2.1 million in 99, and they valued the car at 0. So, which is, for me, is kind of funny. But no, BMWs are, as you see, are my world. I think I've hit every car here.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to click subscribe, comment, and like for more videos like this one.